Alrighty, this is my first time making this type of video, a tier list video. This is for 2025. I will try to make an updated version in 2026, and we'll see how this video does. So this is specifically talking about high level PvP, or PvE. So really difficult quests as well as Mobius and other such non-PvP oriented classes. The goal is to rank them and to show how good each class is at specifically questing. And we're going to start off, we're going to go from right to left because the way that the images uploaded into this application, we're going to start with the highest, the first class as Lancer. I would say Lancer is in the A tier. Now, Lancer, and the reason there's really two main reasons. Lancers have an incredible ability in Lance Flash. The ability to hit 5 times, as well as reducing your ability cooldowns. So you're basically always able to use high level powerful moves, and the damage on Lance Flash is just incredible. So honestly, Lance Flash is broken, but you can't deny that other abilities like Dragon Knight's Cry are incredibly powerful, specifically when it comes to team-oriented damage and really difficult quests, being able to increase the entire team's ability power output by increasing the amount of ability power that the enemies take cannot be understated how powerful of an ability that is. Just incredible. We'll go to the next one. Soldier. Soldier unfortunately has... Oh, and another thing, here's another excellent reason why Lancers are just incredible and top tier, is all of their abilities are some of the fastest in the game. So by the time that you get done with Lance Flash and then Dragon Break right after, your ability cooldowns are already cycled for the next round of attacks. And most other classes will have only gotten off one ability and have started their second ability by the time you're completely done with 2 abilities. So it's not just that they have the highest damage output really out of any class. It's also that their abilities are the fastest. So you can cycle them and do even more damage than every single class. Now, unfortunately, their abilities are really expensive cost-wise. So it is worth noting that Lancers are the top tier in all of Unison League that is not required. And I'm going to go over, there's only one class that's required, but I made a specific row just for them, and we'll get there. I'm going to go with Soldiers are a solid B tier. Soldiers are really slow, and their highest hitting move is a 4-hitter. They can still be really good, but I like the fact that Soldiers are super flexible. They can play Morphers, they can play other classes like Berserker for PvP. They're excellent in things like Guild Battle. I know we are focused on PvE right now, but as far as damage output, they have been really good for a really long time. Unfortunately, they're just a little bit slow, and they would definitely benefit from some new updated moves, but they're still pretty darn good. I'm going to put Archers in C tier. Technically, Archers have the highest damage potential move in the entire game. Technically. But they only have one really good PvE move. And because you only have one PvE move, you're not constantly using dual scaling moves. And so when you're not constantly using dual scaling moves, your damage output is basically equivalent to that of a soldier's. I mean, even if you do incredible damage with just one ability, you would have to have the specific bubble that allows you to keep using the same ability over and over and over and over and over again. And you wouldn't even be able to do it because that ability is 30 costs, if I remember correctly. And it's just unfeasible to be able to consistently. You would need Dawn, you would need that bubble, you would need cost recovery procs. It would be, you'd run out of costs so quickly. It's unfortunate, but I'm also placing archers in the PvE tier because in order to benefit from this massive ability, technically it could be, and in situations it could be a required class or even better than Lancers. The problem is that it's not for most people. Archer is the whaliest class in the entire game. And most people will become very frustrated with Archer because you do very, very little damage compared to most other classes until you reach an exponential growth point of Super Whale where you are now equivalent to other classes. And you already have to spend about twice as much money as other classes in order to do the same amount of damage. But if you go above that, if you become an extreme whale, Archer's the best classes because their damage output is beyond every other class for basically everything. The problem is that they only have one really good PvE ability, and we're not talking about PvP because they've been PvP champions for a really long time. Their flexibility is incredible. I think I'll also dock them points because they're so focused on offense that your defense procs are incredibly important as well. And because you have lower defense stats overall, you will be dying more than more than most classes. I was about to say more than any other class, but that's not true. We'll get to Zerkers. They die the most. I'm going to put mages in C tier as well. This is controversial, but I feel like mages are supposed to be the PvE class. And really, when you look at mages, I mean, so they get a bunch of element. They get a ton of elemental advantage just from existing. It's part of their upgrade rings. They get additional elemental advantage, so they should be at the top of this chart. Really, what's tearing them down from greatness is the fact that they have not gotten a multi-hit ability that hits more than 3 times and dual scales. Time Spellbook is the only ability that they have that is a good PvE ability, honestly. I mean, they have other team buffing abilities, like they have Arcana Worlds, and they have crit buff that they can give, Fantastic Soul or Fanatic Soul. Regardless, they have excellent PvE ability. The problem is that they just don't have the damage. And yes, you could argue that Time Spellbook is excellent in Mobius, but that's the only place it's excellent. One of the greatest indicators that mages suck right now is there has not been a mage, not one mage that I have seen rank in the top 5 of any of the last End of Star events. So those extremely, extremely difficult quests where time is of the essence and you need to kill each wave as fast as possible. You never see a mage there. Why? Because they suck. And they're supposed to be the PvE class. That's all I'm going to say about that. Extremely disappointing, but has the potential to be A tier, potentially better than any other class, given a few new abilities. That's all it would take, honestly. Clerics are an F tier. They have like 3 abilities that dual scale. All of them are 2 hits except for one, which is a 3-hitter. And I'm not gonna lie to you. I used to main cleric damage really long time ago. This was like 4 years ago now. And even when they had these abilities, and they sucked. I mean, honestly, not even close to other classes. And that's really all I'm going to say. So the biggest problem with cleric is that they do not need to exist. Clerics used to be required because unis didn't give so many buffs, but unis give so many buffs nowadays, and healing procs can come from weapons and from monsters, and there's just so much healing that goes around. Now you can even get healing from fields. So clerics are just in a really bad spot. They're probably the only class in the game that really sucks right now. They have a place in guild battle, and that's it. Rooks, I'm going to put in C tier. Rooks have the potential to be A tier, and they used to be required in the old Delusion quests. Before the end of Star quests came out, they used to be required in those quests because you would need to stun the enemy right before it uses its 50% move, because it wasn't worth breaking the 50% barrier with like the required number of hits or whatever. It was more advantageous to just bring a rook and then stun the boss or the monster, the wave monster, at the right time. So they used to be required in top level PvE. They also used to be extremely powerful in Mobius, and they still are. White Charm plus Diffusion. So Diffusion is the ability that allows your team to hit the entire enemy field. Excuse me. And White Charm is the ability that rooks have specifically, that makes it so that you give your buffs to everyone on your team. So what happens is you throw a monster that gives you diffusion, and then each wave somebody kills, because they can now hit every monster on the enemy field. They can kill everything on the enemy field. And then after all of your teammates have gone and used their diffusion, then you White Charm, and now all of your teammates have diffusion again. And so rooks are really, really good. And they even have some new abilities. They have a ton of 3-hitter moves. They have a 4-hitter move. Honestly, the biggest things that are drawing power away from rook, there's 2 main aspects. The first is that they're really, really slow, and their ability powers suck major balls. Like, for example, Lancer's ability powers are in the 200s. And Rook's 4-hitter move is 60 ability power, and the 3-hitter move is a 90 ability power move. And they do have, I believe they have some 4-hitters that are specific for like attack and defense, magic attack, magic defense. The problem is you only have one of them. So, and you can't really build a set off of one move. So it's just bad. They have the potential to be top tier, but in order to become a top tier rook in PvE, you really have to be extremely dedicated to the rook. And that is because you need 10 monsters, 10 armors, and 10 helms in order to be a good rook. But PvE requires you to have as much element as possible, and you get the most element from weapons. So you have to be able to reach a really, really high gear score while also being able to equip a lot of weapons in order to increase your elemental advantage. Rooks are in a really weird spot. They have places where they can be played, and they're still really valuable in a lot of quests. But overall, I think that most people are going to struggle with Rook. And so for the same reasons that I'm docking Archer, for the fact that it's a really hard class, and I don't think most players can play it very well, I'm also docking Rook in the same way. And so I would normally I used to, if this was a year or two ago, I probably would have put Rook in required. But it's just not the same anymore. All right. I'm putting Zerker in D. Now, Zerker has been used recently in the top tier runs for End of Star. And I have played Zerker recently in PvE in order to test how much damage they can actually do. And I was surprised. They actually are pretty good. I'm docking Zerker majorly, like a massive amount, for two main reasons. The first is that you can only play Zerker in PvE specifically one way. You either need dual blades or guns and bows. And it's basically the same problem that you have with Archer, where you have to be incredibly powerful already. You have to be a whale, but there's an even higher level of difficulty that goes with playing Zerker. And where that stems from is the basic fact that Zerkers kill themselves. As the game progresses, they use abilities that consistently demerit and punish themselves. And you can reach the point where you are literally on 1 HP because of your own abilities. They really have a self-destructive nature, and it is very disadvantageous for PvE, because if you get low, there's a high probability that the enemy monster uses a % kill ability, and then you're just dead. And there's nothing that you can really do to stop this self-perpetual damage that you can inflict upon yourself, or potentially reducing aspects of yourself, like uni-blocking yourself, or reducing your uni, or reducing your cost, or, there's a ton of demerits that they can get, and it's just bad. Zerkers also struggle for the fact that they are a very, very squishy class. If archers die quickly, Zerkers are like the thinnest piece of glass imaginable. Like, if you just blow on them in the wrong way in PvE, they just die. So although technically I could easily put them in B tier, they just don't deserve that. They just don't deserve it. It's the same reason why archers don't. Most people are going to struggle. You can only play them one way. I personally, although I did enjoy playing them as a PvE class, it was more of like a, wow, this actually works now, because for years it was horrible and couldn't work. But now it actually works. They do have really high ability power damage, but I don't think that most people will be able to enjoy playing Zerkers. I will also say, I haven't brought this up yet. I will bring it up when we talk about ninjas, but I will also say that one of the main things that I am considering as well, on top of everything else, is how easily a class can auto. If you put a Zerker on auto, you can just assume you're dead. You can do the same thing with archers, but if you have some good procs, if you have like healing procs, there's a chance that you're surviving. Classes like rooks basically never die. It doesn't matter what you do. The time's going to run out and you're still going to be alive. So that is something that I am considering as well. I haven't brought it up until now, but I would probably put Zerkers in C, but given the fact that they are a horrible auto class, I can't put them in C. You would never run Zerker willingly outside of a few niche cases. Like Mobius, for example, if you're required to get additional classes, or extremely difficult quests like End of Star that also require specific debuffs on the enemy, which is why it was used that one time. Treasure Hunter, I'm going to put... This is such a weird class. I'm going to put it in C. And the reason why is because they recently got some new abilities that are actually pretty interesting and pretty powerful for a lot of things. You also have to keep in mind that treasure hunters are excellent in regular quests. They get uni super fast, and they give the ability to get multiple chests at the end of the quest. Those are both super powerful. In old quests, there used to be quest drops that you would have to wait for, and treasure hunters used to be basically required for those types of quests, because if you got this super rare monster, then the treasure hunters would use their abilities to increase the drop chance of specific items from specific monsters, but that no longer really exists. I will say I have seen treasure hunters do extremely well in Mobius, but I have never been part of those runs. I've only seen the end result of them doing really, really well. Like the team as a whole was ranked number 1. So I don't have a lot of personal experience. I could easily put them in B, but I think this also falls into the same problem that archers have had, which is the best abilities that they have are quad scaling abilities. You would need to be a whale. You would need all of your armors, your helms, your armors, your monsters, and your weapons to all be max infused and to be specifically chosen so that you could buff those stats as a treasure hunter. And I've never seen a damaged treasure hunter main. That's probably the number one indicator, to me at least, that treasure hunter isn't a class that you go to for PvE, but it is an additional class that you could run in stuff like Mobius. You also never see it in End of Star stuff, but I will say that just the fact that it's so excellent in regular quests can't be overlooked. I have to put them in C. I love running with treasure hunters. It's a good class for PvE. It's not top tier, but it is good. I'm going to put ninjas in D. You could convince me to put ninjas in F, to be honest. I used to main ninja. The biggest drawback for ninja is that, well, there's many of them, honestly. But for me, the biggest one was auto. If you put ninja on auto and you just try to do regular quests, there is a 99.9% chance that your character does nothing but swaps between the two forms. And that's all they'll do. They will never use their abilities, their damaging abilities. It's just sad, honestly. They also have a few AoE abilities. They have, there's a new one that came out that hits 3 on a dual scale, which isn't bad, but it only hits once, so it's not great. They also only have 2 abilities that can dual scale on a single target and hit pretty consistently. One of them, unfortunately, is extremely bad, and the other one is extremely powerful. It hits like 4 times. It has 220 ability power. The problem with that one is that its cooldown time is incredibly long, and unfortunately, you can't use the abilities in sequence like you can with Lancers. With Lancers, because you're increasing your own ability power, you can just constantly be attacking at max power. With ninjas, you're essentially waiting for your abilities to come off cooldown, and it gets to the point where you can use an old ability that increases or that decreases ability cooldowns, and eventually, after a while, you can get low cooldowns, but you also have to keep using this bad move that does no damage in order to maintain your ability cooldown. It's just bad. It's just bad. And they suffer from the same problem that Zerkers suffer from and archers, where you're so focused on your attack stats that your defense stacks are super lacking. And I think ninjas have the lowest HP out of any class in the entire game. I can't remember, but I believe that is the case. It's just tragic, honestly. Ninjas are one of the best in guild battles. It's too bad they suck when it comes to everything else. All right. And the one required class in the entire game is Morpher. Let's talk about why this is. Because it's easy to say, okay, Morphers are required, and they are a really good class. I would probably put Morphers in A tier just for their damage, because they do have a ton of 4-hitters. They have some really nice abilities. You can use them in a lot of ways. A lot of classes can flex into Morphers, and I love that. I love that because it gives more enjoyment to the players, but also it's just a good class. You can put Morphers on auto and they'll do gnarly damage. You'll see Morphers in almost every single team on Morphers. You'll see Morphers on every single team for End of Stars, and you have for years now. Morphers have been the leading class for PvE. It's really unfortunate you don't see them in guild battles, but they have the potential to be extremely good. The thing that gives Morphers an edge over every single class is the simple fact that Morphers have tension. And Unison League's A team never stated anywhere, really, that I can remember, what tension does. They gave a description in the Japanese Unison League, and we got a translation for it from a fan. And I just remember tension because I used to main Morpher. When I used to main Cleric, I never played Cleric in PvE. I always just played Morpher because it was just better. And Morpher, they have an ability called Shining Aura that is the only reason that you should really play Morpher. It is the reason why they're required. It gives your team 2 tension. So let's discuss what tension is. Tension is a buff that gives your person more damage output. It's a percent damage. It's a percent scaling damage output based on the number of unique buffs, not the value of those buffs. They could all be level 1 buffs. Like you could have +1 to your element, like fire, for example. If you had just fire element, just at 1, this would apply. So it doesn't matter if it's 1 or level 8 or level 18, like what the value of that buff is, it doesn't matter. What tension does is based on the number of unique buffs that you have. These are the buffs that will cycle through when you're just attacking and doing your regular stuff. It increases your damage output by a percentage. And the percentage is not a small percentage. When you're at +40 tension, which is the max tension, it is somewhere around the 2.5 to 3 times damage multiplier. And this is really, really obvious. The best way that you can really test this is join your guild battle for Crystal Assault. Somebody run as a group. Somebody run Morpher, or 2 people run Morpher and instantly start applying the Shining Aura to you, and then rerun it, all the same buffs, everything else is the same, and you will see your damage is more than cut in half. Morphers are required for PvE because they give tension, and no monsters give tension. You can only, this is a class specific buff. You cannot obtain this buff, which is one of the most powerful buffs in the entire game, without Morpher. And I see Morphers all the time not running Shining Aura. It's so sad. It's so sad because there's not a good description of it. But tension is the most powerful buff in the entire game. And it is what makes Morpher the best class in the entire game, for hands down, for PvE. Alrighty, that pretty much wraps it up. I will catch you guys later.